Okay, see, just to explain my lab setup, I have my domain controller which is created in the Azure. So then I have installed Active Directory and DNS on this, and then also I have installed Azure Sync, that is Azure AD Sync, so which will sync my user to Azure Active Directory. If you go to the Azure Active Directory, so you will see all my users which is synced from on-premise. Okay, so as you can see, there are two types of users here. One is created in the Azure itself, and one is created from the on-premise, which is synced using Azure AD. So if you can see, some users ending with the on Microsoft.com. See, these are all created on the Azure itself. So, and then we have something called VDA bus. Here you can see we have VDA bus, right? Test AZ, and then we have FS test 2, FS test 1. If you see, the name is VDA bus.site. And if you see that on-premise sync enabled, so it means it is yes. So it means it is coming from the on-premise using Azure AD Sync. Okay, so let's not deep dive into this, but you need, this is one prerequisite. You should have a synchronization between your on-prem and Azure for the user. And one more prerequisites, you need to register your domain. Okay, so whatever the domain you are using, for example, in my case, it is VDA bus. So if you go here and if you see this custom domain name, see, I have registered my domain VDA. So this requires you need to purchase a domain name from the public domain register, such as we have many DigiCert, we have Hostinger. I personally like Hostinger. I like, you'll get a domain for $1, etc. sometimes. So the detail of this, all these things are involved in my, included in my Udemy course. You can check that. So how to buy and how to register everything. Okay. So if you do not have this, you cannot sync the user to Azure AD. Okay, so this is must. So two things in mind. One is Azure AD sync, and another one is domain registration, custom domain registration. Okay. So once this is done, now let's jump into the network part. So we need to create a network. So to create a network, we need to go to the Azure Virtual Network, and here we need to create. Click on create. So coming before jumping into this, let's imagine if you are very new and you wanted to deploy, test, and to do everything. The first step, you need to go to Google and you need to type create Azure tenant for free, Azure free account. Okay, so this will guide you through. So once you're registered to this, right, you need to enter your credit card details here. However, they won't charge anything, Microsoft. So they will give you $200. So this is more than enough to practice everything in Azure. Okay, not only Azure VDA. If you take anything, any service, $200 is enough, because the moment you create anything, right? Like let's say if you create a VM, after testing you need to delete it. Okay, don't keep it. If you keep it, it will be get built. So to be frank with you, I learned my Azure in back into 2019 with just $10 or $11. Okay, I used this account, free account, and I used to deploy and delete immediately after I testing. Okay, so I did a complete lab in within $10, I believe. So once you have this subscription, you'll get a page like this, and then do all the setup which I just mentioned. You can refer to my Udemy course where I guided bit by bit, okay, from the scratch. So once you have a subscription, the next part is make sure that you have a domain controller, and then you have your AD, DNS, etc. So before you deploy domain controller also, first thing we need to deploy a network. Okay, so let's create a network. So here you need to like, there will be a subscription name by default, it will come. So you select the subscription name. Okay, resource group, if you want create, you can create a new resource group. I am going to your name demo lab RG, and I'll click OK. Virtual network name VDI, sorry, I'll give AVD demo VNet. Okay, the location, so this is the location you have to select. So you need to select the nearest location for you. So in our case, this is a lab. I'll keep central US itself. Okay, so click next. Okay, so do not enable anything here unless and until you require Bastion or Azure Firewall, but for a lab it is not required. Okay, click next. So this is very important. So I told you, right, this is the address space, okay, which I explained earlier. So here we need to Microsoft by default it will give you this range, but if you do not want to use it, just delete the existing one and create your own address space. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, so if you do not want to use the existing one, you can use your own. For example, in this case, I'm going to use 10.145.0.0. So I need a complete of how many IPs. So see, they made it simple as well. So if you take 25, you will get 128 IP address. So I'll take 256 here. Okay, now I have to break. Okay, I have to break it into smaller as per my production. So I'm not going to do this at this moment. Okay, so I just created one Vnet with just with a 256 subnet. We will take it later. Okay, so click next. So it will validate the configuration and then it will ask you to create. So now what we have done, we went to the Microsoft portal. We created a Vnet, which is 10.145.0.0/24. So now the next experiment is, sorry, next task is in this Vnet, we are going to create two subnets. Okay. Subnet 1 for the production, subnet 2 for the non-production. Okay. Vnet it is deploying. It will take some time, maybe fraction of seconds or minutes. Let's wait for this. Vnet is completed. So if you go to the Azure Virtual Network, you will see my new Vnet, which is AVD demo, which is hosted in Central US under this resource group. So now if you go inside this, and then we need to go to subnets. Okay. So by default, there is no subnets. So without subnet, you cannot deploy your VMs. So we need to have a subnet. So I'm going to create a subnet. I'll say prod. So subnet range. So it will ask, this is the default address range. Do you want to create with this or do you want a smaller size? So I'll go with the smaller size, which is 25. So the address range also they will tell what till what it you will get. See, till 127 you'll get, which means 123 plus 5 IP address, which is for Azure. So out of 127, you can only use 123. Okay, the remaining 5 it will be for Azure for the other purpose such as routing, DNS, DSCP, etc., etc. So let's use 25. See, and one more thing, if your base is like your resource group, your address space is 24, you cannot create the greater than that. See, if I choose 23, it will give an error saying that subnet address 23 is not considered in these virtual networks address space. Why? Because the parent which is having 24, so I have to create the smaller, which is 20, 25 or 26 or 27. Okay, so I cannot create larger chunks such as 23 or 22. So I'm going to create 25 and I'll click save. Okay, so now I have created a VM. Sorry, now I have created a subnet which is having 123 IP address. Similarly, I will create one more subnet which is non-prod, and I will give an example saying that I will take another chunk which is 26. Okay, so it will the IP address will be from 128 to 191 as I explained earlier. I'll click save. So now we have 59 IP address. Out of this, you can use to deploy. So now I'll create one more IP address. Sorry, one more. For example, let's say SIT environment. Okay, so I'll take this as 27. Okay, so the continuation will go 192 to 223. Same thing I explained in the lab. Sorry, in the whiteboard. it's done. I have created 3 subnets. So now I need to create something called network security group. I told you, right? So to do that, we need to go to NSG. I will click on create. I'll select that resource group. You can keep it in any resource group, that doesn't matter. NSG for demo, Central US. So I'll always keep the same location as your Vnet. Cannot deploy NSG in one region and deploy another one in another region. Let's click on create. So what we have done, we created 3 subnets. Okay, so for example, let's imagine we created 3 subnets. So now what we are going to do, we creating a NSG. Okay, NSG, and we will bind this NSG to these subnets. Okay, it is better you deploy different NSG for different subnets. Okay, so let's create NSG for production and NSG for non-prod and NSG for test and development or SIT. So see, this is done. So I'll go to the NSG. So if you go to the network security group, by default, you can see there are some rules. Inbound rules saying that all VNet inbound is allowed. It means within the VNet you can communicate. Okay. Outbound rule says that all internet is allowed and all outbound VNet is also allowed. So let's bind this to the subnet. Okay. I'm going to associate this subnet to one of the subnets. So this is the VNet. As I told you, I have 2 VNets. This is the one I created just now. And then I have 3 subnets. So I'm applying only to the production. I'll click OK. So now I have deployed a VM in the production. Sorry, now I have deployed a NSG to the production. So let's go and deploy a VM in that particular subnet. Okay, so I'm going to the Azure portal, click create virtual machine, and I'm selecting the demo resource group. I'll click text demo VM. Central US I'll keep. See, this is the option availability option. So see, no infra redundancy required. This is the first option I was discussing. Then we have an availability zone. Then we have mission scale set, which doesn't support for Azure VDI. And then we have availability set. Okay, so you need to choose accordingly. For this lab, I'm choosing no infrastructure redundancy. So if you choose availability zone, right, it will ask on which zone, which data center you wanted to keep. You want to keep it in 1 or 2 or 3. Okay, I'll keep no for now. Trusted launch security type, I'll go with the standard. Operating system, I will go with the Windows Server 2022 maybe, or Windows 10. Because Windows 10 it requires some initial configuration that will consume the time. Okay, I will go with this option. Okay, Windows Server 2022. Then standard size, which is as per your requirement, you can choose. I will select this one, which is 2 ECP 8 GB RAM, just to save some money. Username, this is the local admin you're going to create on the VM. This is not Azure host pool creation. Okay, this is just how to create a VM in Azure. Okay, public inbound, I'll select none for now. I'll come to this point. I'll click next. Disk here an option. You can choose premium, standard, HDD. You can choose accordingly. I'll go with the standard now. Or I'll go with HDD only. This is a lab, right? So the encryption, I'll keep it as it is. This is related to data encryption. I'm not going to dig deep now. Network. So this is you required. So here we need to select which network you want to keep. So I have created a VNet, right? So I have to select the VNet first, and then which subnet you have to create. So I select production subnet. Okay, public IP. Do you want public IP or not? If you do not select public IP, you cannot take remote. Okay, so I'll keep the public IP. And it will ask, do you require network security group? I will say no. Why? Because my subnet is already having a NSG. So that's why I'm selecting here no. Okay. Otherwise, it will create one more NSG on the NIC level also. It will Microsoft will also will tell that the existing subnet is having a NSG. So that's it. Rest everything is you just need to click next, and click on review, and then click on create. Okay, so this will review and it will let us know if any issue during the inputs we have provided. Otherwise, it will create the VM. So see, it is creating the VM. So it will take another 1 minute to create the VM. VM is created. Let's go to the resource. Okay, this is my VM. It is up and running. And if you go to the boot management, boot diagnostics, you can see on which screen also it is there. Okay, so currently it is, I think, still coming up. So that is why it will show you the black screen. Otherwise, it will show you the login screen technically. Okay, this is one of the troubleshooting. You can also check if your VMs are not responding. So let's try to connect here. It will download the RDP file. So RDP file is nothing but just it will have the public IP address, or we can directly connect using this also to MSTSC. Just your public IP address of your server. See, it is not connecting, and also it is saying that unable to configure this port 3389 access. Can you tell me someone why this is not working and why I'm not able to give you the not able to do the uh, remote? I'll go to the NSG. So I'll go to the inbound. I'll create a rule. I'll say source as my IP, which is okay. So this is my IP. I'll add it here. Source port any, because in my computer it can use any port, so no need to define. You just keep it star. Destination, yes. This is my like on which IP you need. You can select that, or you can put any. It means it will apply to the entire IP of that subnet. Okay. So I'll keep any just for simplicity, or you can mention IP and specify the IP address, the internal IP address of my VM. Okay. For simplicity, I'll keep it as it is. I'll say RDP 3389 allow 100 priority. I'll give. I'll click on add. So now we have allowed. So let's go and initiate the connection once again. I have downloaded the RDP file earlier. I'll use the same. As you can see now, it is see came up, and I'm going to log in using my local admin which I created. Our VM is ready, and I'm able to log in. So this is how you create a VM in Azure. So so far, I hope everything is clear. How to create VM and how to create NSG, how to create VNets, etc., etc. Right? So let's go to the Azure Virtual Desktop and we'll see how to create Azure Virtual Desktop host pool. So yeah, before jumping into that, one wanted to complete one. So let's say this is your you are creating a master image. I'll let you know the master image creation process as well. This is like consider this is a master image and you installed all your applications here. Okay. So next what you have to do, you need to go to script, click this and click on generalize and then click on shutdown. Okay. You have to select this option. So this is you have to do after installing your applications or customized script, etc., etc. At the last stage, you need to click OK. Always it is recommended to take a snapshot before you do this, because once you do script, then you cannot access this VM. Okay, always take a snapshot of this before you're doing this sysprep. Okay, click OK. It will take some time for the sysprep and it will turn off this VM. So let's go back to our VM. So Let's wait till it do the sysprep. Okay, sysprep is done, and I lost the connectivity. Now this VM is no more usable. Okay, now what we have to do? We have to go inside this VM, and first thing we need to stop this VM. Okay, so currently it is saying running. So let's stop it. So now our VM is in stopped state, as you can see. Once you are in a stopped state, right? Now this is a VM, just a VM which is stops. Now we need to convert this into image. For that, we need to click on this option, which is capture. Okay, let's click on capture, and then by default it will take the region as yes. Okay, so it will ask, do you want it to upload this automatically to shared image gallery? Shared image gallery is nothing but a repository where you can keep all the VM images. So I don't want to keep now, so I'll keep it here itself. Okay, so it will ask automatically delete the virtual machine after creating. Yes, I'll click because I told you that virtual machine which is created, right, which will be no more usable. So what I'll do after creating image, I'll ask from Azure to delete automatically. I'll give the name for this. I'll give the name as test image, and I'll click on review and complete. Create. So validation is completed and it is creating the image. So it won't take much time to create the image, just a fraction of seconds to minutes. See, our image is ready. So if you wanted to see the image, go to image. See, this is our image. So if you wanted to deploy any VMs from this image, same like how we are deploying VMs from the template, right? So you can click on create and it will create the VM from this image. Okay. So this is how we are creating an image for our Azure VDI or irrespective of Azure VDI. If you have some other reasons, specific requirement, you can do.